Hey guys, this is Curtis with Graham Patina. I know we had a lot of requests for our comparison videos, and I thought we're very lucky today to have two great sub references that most people have rarely seen and rarely do we have in stock. And those are the Big Crown 6538, and I guess you can call this the Small Crown 5508. Now, both of these subs are very iconic in design. Most people couldn't tell the differences side by side, let alone wearing it on a wrist. But I thought it would be interesting to compare and contrast both of them because they're quite frankly in two different price brackets. We see Big Crown subs at auction are well into the six figures, and 5508s ranging from 25,000 to 100,000, depending on kind of what condition they're found in. Most people are probably familiar with the 5513 Submariner reference, and that's largely because it was around for close to 2 decades. And over that period of time, there's many iterations of that reference. But when we're talking about the 6538 and the 5508 respectively, they were only made for about 4 or 5 years. The 6538 was introduced in 1954 and ended production right around 1959. And the 5508 was introduced around 1958 and ended production in 1962. So there was just about a year in overlap when these watches were active at the same time. The biggest difference I see is not just the price difference between the two, but really the Big Crown, and true to its name, has a much larger crown than the 5508. It's quite frankly a very distinctive feature of the Big Crown Submariner that immediately sets it apart from any other Submariner that was created thereafter. Both of these watches are crownless, so they are a 38 millimeter case diameter. The difference between the crown size is about 2 millimeters. We have a 6 millimeter crown on the 5508, and we have an 8 millimeter crown. And although those 2 millimeters in difference doesn't seem like a lot, when you see it on the case, you can immediately tell which one is which. Now, the differences don't stop there, right? The 5508 is slimmer in profile. It's a much slimmer watch in terms of thickness versus the 6538. You have a much larger dome crystal also on the 6538. Both come with an insert with a red triangle from factory. On this 5508, the insert's been replaced, which is not uncommon. The other big difference is between the two. Now, both of them have a chapter ring dial. And specifically, the 6538 has a variant of a 4-line dial. And what that really means for the 6538, there is an additional certification or testing for a chronometer label from Rolex. And in order to, I believe, run a chronometer certification for a watch, it needs to run within COSC spec, which is +6, -4 seconds a day. Within that range, within a 2-week period, you're allowed that testing. So on the 4 lines, on the movement for the 4 lines, they'll have additional verbiage for this certification, this testing. Does it make that big of a difference in today's world if you're wearing these watches? Probably not. You're going to get more accuracy out of a quartz watch or a digital watch, obviously. So that's not really the buying factor for considering these watches. On the 5508, it's just 1 line of silver text and it's 2 lines. Does more lines equal more value? It's hard to say. It is definitely one of those nuances that separates these watches. And in the world of vintage Rolex, anytime you can separate and distinguish your watch from another, group of watches, there's an argument to be made that it's more valuable. And there's only a fraction of the 6538s were made with this additional certification, with the additional 2 lines of text. And it costs more. It also costs more at the time of purchase from new. So look, those are the speeds and feeds. How does it really fit on the wrist? Is it worth the premium? The way I would compare the two watches is if I'm rolling up into a black tie event in a Jaguar, I think I'm choosing the 5508. It just seems to be more suit-oriented, black tie event or cocktail evening attire type of watch because it sits much lower to the wrist. It's not going to get caught in the cuff of a shirt, and it's much more subtle. The dial looks maybe 1 millimeter bigger. Optically, it just looks a little bit larger because of how flat it is. Now the 6538, this is more like a pheasant hunting, pull up in your Land Rover Defender type of watch. Getting the sports analogies all wrong because this is a dive watch, but you get what I'm saying. It has the vibe of big game hunting, big game fishing type of watch. It's more sporty because it's thicker. You do have that Superdome kind of crystal that gives it that thickness and height to the watch. And because of that, I think it looks a little bit more durable. Whereas the 5508, to me, even though it's a sports watch, feels at home in a tux. Between the two, obviously, I think I have a preference for the 6538 just because of the quirkiness and the uniqueness of the big crown. Now, between these two watches, there's probably $150,000 in difference. Now, I think the 5508 gets you 90% of where the 6538 will take you. However, with that being said, if you're in a group of watch collectors, enthusiasts, and you're at Roley Fest, this is the watch that's going to get all the attention, and it's the subtle nuanced details that matter. To everyone else, you might as well be wearing a 5508, but the people that really know watches, there is no substitute for a 6538. So I don't know if that opinion is unpopular or popular, but that's my take, and enjoy the B-roll. Thanks, guys.